The weld line gives. No warning, no sound before the sound. Old iron parts from old iron, and the South China Sea pushes through the gap like it has been waiting 25 years for this exact moment, because it has. 6:14, the 12th of March, 2026. Second Thomas Shoal. The 10 Marines of the garrison move before the order comes. Ammunition crates first hauled up the companionway in a chain of straining arms, passed hand to hand without ceremony. Field radio next. Then ration bags, water containers, anything the sea will ruin. The aft compartment floor buckles as ingress pressure builds beneath it, deck planks popping upward one by one, a slow percussion of structural failure. The water is dark and cold, and it does not hurry because it does not need to. Corporal Ramos radios Palawan at 6:40. His report is 4 sentences. The wound is opening faster than buckets can answer. Estimate, days, not weeks, possibly less. The garrison needs materials now. Palawan already has materials moving. BRP Cabra and BRP Batangas left port before first light. Decks loaded with steel plates, timber bracing, epoxy compound, fresh water, food. 2 Coast Guard vessels pushing southeast at maximum sustainable speed. Behind them, a civilian pump boat carries the heaviest repair load. The prefabricated section's too bulky for the larger hull's handling gear. The convoy knows the grounded vessel is failing. What they don't know is that they are not the only ones tracking its condition. At 7:40, 2 contacts detach from the northeastern horizon, not drifting, not on standard patrol arcs. Gray walls materializing from morning haze, growing in Cabra's bridge binoculars with the slow, inevitable expansion of a problem that was always going to arrive, just not necessarily today. CCG 5203 and CCG 3901, China Coast Guard, southbound on a heading that intersects the supply route with geometric precision. Commander Villanueva watches. He does not reach for the radio yet. CCG 5203 moves. First angling diagonally into the approach lane without broadcast, without signal, simply draping its hull across the corridor the way a door swings shut. No aggression declared, no contact made, just 200 meters of steel occupying the only viable path, forcing Cabra to bleed, speed, or accept the consequences of not doing so. Villanueva cuts throttle, the convoy stacks behind him, the rotor noise arrives before the aircraft does. Deep, rhythmic, pressing downward, and then a Z9 helicopter drops below cloud ceiling and comes in low, rotor wash hammering the water surface into churning white. On Cabra's foredeck, a tarpaulin tears free in a single explosive snap and spirals away. The steel repair plates underneath are exposed now, their dimensions and configuration unmistakable to anyone watching from above. The helicopter banks, climbs, circles, whatever uncertainty existed about the convoy's purpose has been resolved. CCG 3901 has used the distraction well. While attention tracked the aircraft, the second vessel repositioned sliding around Cabra's port quarter, quiet and deliberate, until it holds a flanking position that converts the approach corridor into a box. One hull across the route, one hull alongside. The space between them narrows as both vessels hold their positions against the current. On the Sierra Madre's highest intact deck section, Ramos watches the convoy stop 3 kilometers short. The supply boats sit motionless in the chop, cargo exposed, neither advancing nor retreating. Behind him, deep in the iron reef's belly, something shifts a structural sound, low and slow. The kind that comes from load-bearing components adjusting to loads they were not engineered to carry. The sea is ankle deep in the aft compartment. Rising, Ramos faces forward again. The convoy is still pointing toward him. Small hulls, stationary, sitting with their cargo in water that the 2 gray hulls have closed. The window is not shut yet, but the geometry is changing by the minute, and Villanueva on Cabra's bridge is running the same calculation Ramos is running from the rail and arriving at the same answer. BRP Cabra's captain makes a decision that no protocol covers. He orders full ahead, directly at the gap between the 2 Chinese hulls. A gap that is, by any measurement, too narrow. Full throttle. Cabra's bow wave lifts as she accelerates, not the cautious advance of a vessel feeling for danger, but the committed push of one that has decided the cost of stillness now exceeds the cost of movement. The engine note rises. The hull shudders with it. CCG 5203 responds immediately. Its stern swings hard not to open the lane but to compress what remains of it, pivoting to present maximum hull to maximum hull. A corridor that had been marginal becomes a seam. The reef edge sits 40 meters to starboard, the watercolor changing from deep blue to pale green where coral begins. The Z9 presses down overhead, its rotor wash flattening the chop between the vessels into a white, churned confusion. What remains open is close enough to shout across. Villanueva makes one adjustment 2 degrees starboard, a fraction of wheel, threading Cabra's bow between CCG 5000, 203 stern, and the reef's outer edge. Not a dramatic maneuver, almost invisible from the outside. The kind of correction a careful man makes when the margin has been calculated to the last meter, and he has decided it holds. Every man on the bridge stops moving at the same moment. The contact arrives as sound before it arrives as sensation. A tearing groan runs the full length of Cabra's port beam CCG 5000. 203's fender rail, finding her hull plating, metal yielding to metal, the noise traveling through the superstructure and into the deck beneath the crew's boots. Paint stripped, steel scored. Both vessels shudder. 1 second of absolute stillness on both bridges. Then Cabra is through. In the engine room, the crew registers the contact as vibration before they hear it. The shudder rising through the deck plates and up through their legs. A physical sentence. Contact. Not catastrophic. The engineer holds throttle position. The hull moves. The gap opens behind them as Cabra's stern clears. Behind her, in the white turbulence of the breakthrough, the pump boat moves. The contractor at the helm reads the moment correctly. CCG attention is tracking the larger vessel that just cleared the corridor. The 2 gray hulls are repositioning, their focus shifted. He restarts the engine without discussion. Throttle forward. The small craft slots into Cabra's wake turbulence and uses the churn as concealment, threading through foam on the Chinese vessel's blind quarter, keeping the disturbed water between itself and any watching eye. On the Sierra Madre's rail, Ramos sees the pump boat emerge from the chaos. He doesn't celebrate, he turns immediately to direct his men to the rope ladder position. Then CCG 3000, 901 pivots. Not toward Cabra, she has already cleared. The second vessel shifts its attention the way a problem shifts when one part of it is resolved. Smoothly, without announcement, the bow coming around toward the pump boat. The slower target, the smaller hull, the one carrying the epoxy and timber that separates the Sierra Madre from the incoming storm forecast in 9 days. The pump boat crew see it. The helm comes off. Engine cut. The craft drifts rising and falling on the swell, sitting in the open water between CCG 3901, bearing down from the north and the reef that defines the southern boundary of their options. The Z9 makes a second pass, its loudspeaker pushing warnings in Tagalog then English, the words arriving shredded by rotor wash and wind, arriving out of order, arriving mostly as noise. The boat goes still in the water like a held breath. CCG 3000, 901 closes. The gap between vessels compresses 40 meters, then 25, then close enough for the pump boat crew to read the numbers painted on the Chinese vessel's bow. The contractor grips the gunwale, does not reach for the throttle. Any movement now reads as provocation. CCG 3901 stops. Engines reversing to hold position, a mechanical decision communicated through the water as vibration, felt in the pump boat's hull before it is visible in the other vessel's behavior. The gray hull sits, holds, does not close the final distance. No signal given, no explanation broadcast. In that stillness, the pump boat's contractor exhales for the first time in 2 minutes. He does not look at his hands. He looks at the rope ladder hanging from the Sierra Madre's hull, 200 meters ahead, and reaches for the throttle. CCG 3000. 901 stops engines reversing to hold position, and in that stillness, the pump boat's crew restarts their motor. They have perhaps 40 minutes before the tide shifts and the window closes for good. The rope ladder meets the hull at 8:58. Contractors climb with epoxy canisters strapped to their backs, boots finding the rungs by feel, moving fast without rushing the particular efficiency of people who understand exactly how much time remains and have stopped spending energy on anything that doesn't reduce the problem. On deck, the garrison forms a relay without instruction. Timber sections pass from hand to hand across buckled plating, each length grabbed and moved and passed on, the chain covering the full working deck in both directions from the hatch. The epoxy team goes below, into the smell of bilge water and old rust and salt that has been accumulating since 1999. The aft compartment holds water to knee height, shifting with each swell, cold against the legs. They work by torchlight pressing compound into the open seam with both hands, the material resisting the wet and the chill before it grips. Slowly, then holding. By 10:30, the ingress has slowed to a seep. The Philippine National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea issues one statement at 11:00. The resupply was completed under extremely adverse conditions. No further detail released. The scrape along Cabra's port beam goes unmentioned. The pump boat and its 40-minute window go unmentioned. The CCG vessels withdraw northeast by noon and do not return. For 36 hours, the shoal is quiet. On March 14, a structural engineer arrives by helicopter, 2 hard cases of equipment. His expression, the carefully neutral kind that means he has already read the reports and is here to confirm rather than discover. He is below decks for 3 hours. When he surfaces, he finds Ramos and speaks with his voice low against the wind. What reaches Ramos is enough. The epoxy has answered the surface question. The deeper question, the main keel frame, the vessel's spine carries stress fractures no surface patch will reach. The storm system currently forming east of Luzon, forecast to arrive between March 18 and March 21, will apply the kind of force that finds hidden weaknesses and makes them visible. This is not a matter of meters of hull gap or kilometers of supply route. It is a matter of days. On March 16, a second convoy departs, Palawan larger, carrying prefabricated steel sheets, a welding rig, and 2 additional engineers. Satellite imagery captured by independent researchers within 6 hours of departure shows 4 CCG vessels repositioning north of the shoal. Their spacing is not the loose geometry of patrol routes. It is measured, deliberate, the configuration of a cordon being assembled, a closing hand, not a passing formation. That evening, Ramos sits on the highest intact section of the superstructure and listens. The Sierra Madre has always made sounds at night, metal contracting and cooling air, small ticks and creaks that a man learns to categorize after 2 years of living inside them. Tonight the sounds are different in register, slower, deeper, originating from below rather than from surface plates. Load-bearing sounds, structural sounds, the kind a building makes when something fundamental has shifted, except this structure floats on open ocean with no ground beneath it and no shore within reach. The second convoy is still 2 days out when the barometer begins to fall, and somewhere in the darkness beneath the hull, the iron reef that has held this nation's claim for a quarter century shifts, just slightly. On the coral below,